Since finishing the 3.0 story, I've been struggling to put my thoughts together. A lot was set up, a lot actually happened, but it's been hard for me to pinpoint any one specific idea that I wanted to talk about. So what I have been doing is going down a deep rabbit hole in search of the meaning behind two big, more nebulous ideas that keep rattling around in my head and what they mean in the context of Amphoreus, lies, and the Trailblaze. But in my quest for knowledge, I couldn't shake my fixation with Black Swan, who seemed to be lurking around every corner. So this is your spoiler warning from here on out, and let's get straight to the March 7th shaped elephant in the room. Our first foray into the epic Amphoreus saga begins with March 7th feeling unwell and ends with her once again becoming encased in 6-phased ice. Now this wasn't particularly surprising. March has many ties to the Remembrance due to her lack of memory from the time before she joined the Astral Express, but what makes it interesting to me is Black Swan's very close involvement with March 7th and the journey to Amphoreus. So Black Swan is a memo keeper for the Garden of Recollection who, according to her character story, is a diviner, uncovering memories intertwined with her path and aeons. Nothing out of the ordinary here. Yet I still find Black Swan's actions very suspicious, so please bear with me as I try to explain why, because we are going to jump around a lot. The first thing you may have forgotten is that when Black Swan appears on the Express to suggest their next destination be Amphoreus, she comes out of March 7th's room. Like seriously, what was she doing in there? But moving on from that for now. The reason she suggested this planet is because it is a world even the Aeon of Trailblaze, Akavili, never reached. And by laying down a new track of the Silver Rail, the Astral Express could convert Trailblaze into almost endless fuel for the train. But the catch for all of this is that Amphoreus can only be revealed by the Garden of Recollection's mirrors. It's clear from all of this that Black Swan has her own agenda here, and it also makes me wonder if other things could be revealed using the garden's mirrors. Like a woman encased in eternal ice, perhaps. What if Black Swan revealed March 7th to the world to assist her in uncovering precious memories related to aeons? But then why would she allow March 7th's eternal ice to reform? Well, my guess here is also the same. When March starts feeling sick, Black Swan says she will attend to her while the rest of the crew start making arrangements to enter Amphoreus. We also know from the story quest Total Recall that the Garden clearly knows what memories are being hidden from March 7th because they want to protect her from them. However, Fujuan suggests that another Aeon entirely may be the one who sealed the memories away, and the Garden are just trying to protect March. So what if Black Swan stayed with March 7th to assist in her refreeze to act as bait for the Express and whatever past eludes her on Amphoreus so that she can glean precious memories of aeons? I know it's a long shot, but honestly, I want to believe something a bit weird when it comes to March 7th's past, because I've seen so many great and super well constructed theories that suggest March is part of Cyrene, but honestly, I don't want them to be true. Simply because I love Elysia and I love March 7th, but I want them to both get their own unique stories instead of them being mashed into one. On that note, I'd love to jump onto some of the Cyrene revelations in 3.0 that you may have missed, but first we need to take a little detour, and yes, Black Swan is once again involved. One of the main puzzles littered throughout Amphoreus are the Golden Scapegoat puzzles, which see us walk a goat-headed character along a path to outline the destiny that our past self shall walk to assist in lighting a brazier and completing the puzzle. It's a beautiful bit of narrative and gameplay synergy, really. The golden-blooded Chrysos heirs walk the path of the Titans and ignite their core flames just as the prophecy foretold. But let's take a little look-see at the description of the puzzle when you click it on the map. This statement was once inscribed upon the ancient stone. The 13th returns and remains as the first. The fated path of the Lamb is a struggle between patience and wisdom. If they fail to ignite the core flame, then they will be swallowed by the darkness. This text refers to the prophecy of creation left behind by Kephalli. Yet there are only 12 core flames and 12 titans. And here is a puzzle called a golden scapegoat, which references the return of a 13th, or as I see it, the rebirth of the original Titan or sinner who shall accept the responsibility for the crimes of the Crisis heirs. This also lines up with the golden scapegoat's mutterings readables, which progressively unlock as you complete the puzzles. These texts provide copy translated from the ancient Titan language, which talks a lot of how the culprit or scapegoat must die, even if no sin was committed, and also suggests that certain words had dual meaning to the Titans, like dark and light. It's also worth noting that one of the readables says that future is past, and in this silent world of creation, all life is revived. All of these ideas closely mirror the journey of the Flame Chasers in Impact 3rd, which I have spoken about in more depth in my previous videos. But there is definitely a lot of evidence within this little puzzle gameplay alone that supports the idea that Elysia's ex-B Cyrene was the original Titan who must return again to save the world. We just have to wait and see how we bring her back this time round. But what do the golden scapegoats have to do with Black Swan? Well, let's take a little look at her splash art. Notice the goat head? Now yes, the golden scapegoats are not the first time we've seen this type of imagery in Honkai Star Rail. Duke Inferno of the Annihilation Gang sports a goat skull head, but there are notable distinctions in the narrowness of his face and the shape of the horns, whereas the golden scapegoat is almost identical to that found on her art. And whilst I don't think Black Swan is specifically related to these little Amphoreus puzzles, I think it's worth looking at the symbolism. Goat heads are typically associated with the occult, and in the case of Black Swan specifically, with the figure known as Baphomet, a being attributed with the devil, as well as being a symbol of balance. This is further supported by Black Swan's third eidolon, as above, so below, a modern paraphrase of a verse from the Emerald Tablet, and a phrase also born on Baphomet's epitaph. The idea behind this passage suggests that heavenly or godlike beings mirror human life, and that both the divine and humanity exist in tandem, influencing one another. Thinking of this with the golden scapegoats in mind, the Titans and humanity are influencing each other, with the actions of the Chrysos heirs having consequences, which mean they must accept the responsibility of divinity to maintain balance. There's definitely more that could be said here, but for now, let's move on, as there was one other readable that can be found in Okama that alludes to the existence of a 13th Titan, and it's called The Anecdotes of a Numerophile. This text opens by saying, "There were once some cities on the other side of the ocean, where the people there didn't think that the Titans were the pillars of the world. Instead, they believed that the Titans were controlled by an unspeakable higher being, a machine with divinity, if you will, and manipulated by something as abstract as numbers." Sounds a little bit like Noose, doesn't it? The readable then goes on to describe two factions known as Order Numerophiles and Chaotic Numerophiles. Those following Order believe the Titans can all be attributed to integers and their operations, whereas the Chaotic followers proposed the existence of a hidden, unknowable 13th Titan. According to this, the chaotic numerophiles often worsen the black tide, but thinking on the visual design of the black tide, it looks eerily similar to the Sea of Data in Honkai Impact 3rd Part 2, which could very much suggest that the current story in Star Rail also takes place in some form of simulated computer space overseen or at the very least created by News. Now, hear me out. What if the Aeons who fettered Amphoreus created the world as some kind of simulation to better understand the behavior of humanity and the nature of their own ascension to divinity? We know that both Noose and Foley are involved, so it seems like a plausible thing that they would do. But what of the third Aeon for this fascinating equation? It really feels like it should be Mythos, the Enigmata, an Aeon supposedly born from remembrance who seeks to tamper with historical records to challenge the certainty of Noose. Perhaps Amphoreus is even the birthplace of Enigmata. Regardless of these three Aeons' intentions, the paths and their values are all incredibly present throughout the Eternal Land. Mythos being involved could also answer the question of who sealed March's memories, as if it was the Enigmata, it would explain why Foley is attempting to protect her past. And while I think that those are the three Aeons that watch over Amphoreus, I have one really wild feeling that there is another path which influences the world, just without the help of its Aeon. So to help me explain why I feel this way, let's talk about the lie of the sky. When we arrive on Amphoreus, the Trailblazer is told not to let people know they come from beyond the sky, and the punishment shall be extreme should we ignore this request. The reason Aglaia gives us is that a group of Amphoreus citizens once tried to take skyships into the stars, but ultimately crashed and perished, so the Chrysos heirs don't want to give people hope. But this explanation feels far too convenient to me for a number of reasons. One comes back to the Trailblaze. Himiko tells us on the Express that people only became aware of the existence of other worlds after Akavili trailblazed the galaxy. Yet some people on Amphoreus seem pretty sure that something exists beyond the stars. And whilst my regular brain assures me that genuine curiosity would make people think beyond their own existence, I hesitate to believe that's the case here, because Himiko specifically talks about it. And as we know, Amphoreus doesn't acknowledge the Aeons, and Hoyo never just drop hints like that by chance. So what if the path of the Trailblaze had actually found Amphoreus? Black Swan only said Akavili never reached it, but their journey was long and likely filled with many Trailblazers who could have found Amphoreus. If I really wanted to double down on the Phanon is a nameless comment that I made in my prediction video, I'd mention that the Book of Chrysos Heirs says Phanon isn't even his real name, and that maybe he was a nameless continuing his travels. But even I know that sounds a bit silly because of course his old name was Kevin Caslana. Jokes aside, I do think the path of Trailblaze has found a place in Amphoreus prior to the arrival of the Trailblazer. I just don't quite know how yet. Anyways, that has definitely been enough idea exploration for one day, and I am so glad to finally have all of those rogue thoughts out of my head and on paper instead. To try and sum up all of my weird thoughts, lies and obfuscation are a very important theme. Cyrene is absolutely the 13th Titan, Black Swan is sus as heck, and the path of Trailblaze may be more than meets the eye. But before I go, let me leave you with a couple of little tidbits that I just couldn't leave out of this video. I can't stop thinking about Cyrene telling Phanon they should go play with fairies. Like, what are they? I would really like to see them, please. In my Black Swan research, I also spent a lot of time fixating on Himiko, who is looking mightily suspicious, but if I can dig up anything more on that, maybe we make a video. Also, did anyone else notice that the attacks from enemies suffering afflictions from the Strife Titan look suspiciously like the Hunt's attacks in the simulated universe? And to save the best for last, I think the creation nymphs you collect around Amphoreus are literally bugs in the code of the simulation created by News. And I think that's a pretty great place to leave it. Thank you so much for watching. Your time, likes, comments, and subs are all super appreciated and go a very long way to help me make these videos. So stay tuned for more in the future.